welcome back. So, we recently got our free Yuri, and I bet a lot of you are kind of wondering what you're going to be doing with him, unless you already figured it out, whether or not you're going to kill him for something, or you're going to merge him up. I figured it'd be worth discussing just for a bit, because there is a lot you can do with him, whether you want to keep him or you want to fodder him. I just want to highlight a couple of things with him. No extended intro, nothing of the sort. Let's just get right into it. So Yuri, for a lack of better words, is really dumb. He's arguably one of the best units in the game thanks to Honorable Blade as well as Foul Play and a couple other things he can do because he's a dagger and an infantry unit. Honorable Blade grants him additional movement, slaying, Canto 2, and attack speed 6. So he has plenty of stuff going for him in his weapon. He also comes with Duel Infantry 4, which can be used for scoring, albeit it's a bit outdated because of how much units are scoring nowadays. Some units are even hitting 200 BSD thanks to their duo skill. And he also comes with Times Pulse, which can be pretty useful in a lot of scenarios. Before I do go into his build options, I do want to bring up that if you do have an unmerged Yuri already, it may or may not be worth merging him depending on how you value him. Because at +1, it's not really going to make too much of a difference. He gets a bit of extra attack and a bit of extra speed, but outside of that, his performance is going to stay relatively the same, unless you want to either fix his Bane, or you want to just get rid of a Bane in general, or you like the idea of just having the +1 and then never having to merge him again. I do that sometimes with a lot of my units. I figure, modern day units +1, they're going to be doing a lot on their own, even at +1, so take that for what you will. But in my opinion, unless you want to go super merge into him, I don't think it's really going to make all too much of a difference. In fact, it may be beneficial in some cases to keep him unmerged so you can have a Bane. So for example, if you want to run him with Infantry Pulse support skills, having the lower HP, assuming you have an HP Bane, can actually allow him to get hit more frequently, which is really nice. It could also help if you're running Double Fury and you want to set up Wings of Mercy strategies, but outside of that, it's not really going to make too much of a difference. Beyond that, there are a couple builds I want to show off. If you just want to use him on budget with whatever he comes with, you can also just give him Wind Sweep and Blade Session. With Wind Sweep, he doesn't have to worry about most retaliations unless you go up against units that either have no counter disrupt, or are mages and aren't affected by Wind Sweep, which can happen, but with Blade Session and Times Pulse, he really shouldn't be struggling to kill, and with Wind Sweep, he doesn't really have to worry about his survivability all too much, especially against threats that can't bypass Wind Sweep, so slower armors, for example, or units that he can even outspeed with Blade Session. However, in my opinion, one of the best sets you could probably give him is a Blazing Wind set. However, this relies on having some sort of Infantry Pulse support or having some unit that can grant enough accelerated cooldown for him to get it off consistently. So for example, if you were to run Raphael or Valoria support, with Times Pulse in mind, he'll have an instant Blazing Wind ready to go. So then if you were to slap double life and death on him, he will be able to hit really, really hard with a Blazing Wind. And assuming there aren't any guard effects once he enters combat, he'll be able to loop Blazing Wind consistently, which is really, really good for hit and run strategies as well as defeating your foes more reliably. However, given that Special Spiral is a tad expensive, you can run Disarm Trap instead, which may sound contradictory because Disarm Trap is also pretty expensive, but at the time of this recording, you could pick up a Summer Gunthra manual, and she comes with Disarm Trap, which means that you can actually have him ready to go in Aether Raids just like that. And it's actually really, really approachable. The timing is pretty convenient. I don't know if Intelligent Systems figured that we would get a free Yuri. Maybe they did, but the fact that Disarm Trap is just easily available means that you can build your Yuri right out of the gate, which is really, really nice. I actually run this set myself on Aether Raids and Astra Season, and even though he will be giving up the ability to reliably spam Blazing Wind, he doesn't have to worry about traps, meaning that he can always go in turn 1 without any sort of consequence. Unless there's a Hex Trap, at which point you're going to be gambling, but with Blessing buffs, he should be able to bypass the Hex Trap, assuming that he has enough HP for it, which I believe he should be able to have if you give him a single flower. However, what if you want to fodder Yuri? I guess you may be wondering what you may want to kill him for. In my opinion, you're better off taking Times Pulse over Duel Infantry, and that's mainly because I don't believe that scoring 180 BST alone is enough nowadays. Modern day units are hitting 185 BST, and ranged units nowadays are hitting 180 BST, so I find that dual skills are definitely losing their value, which is why I do think Times Pulse is the better approach. And the great thing about Times Pulse is that there's so many uses for it. For example, if you want to slap out on an infantry melee unit with slaying, they can run Vital Astra and Null Follow-Up, meaning that they have the ability to get damage reduction and the ability to bypass any sort of guaranteed follow-up attacks or any sort of effects that negate any sort of follow-up attack they may lose out on from skills such as Impact. I'm using Saber as an example because I like Saber, but you can pretty much use this on any melee infantry unit with a good speed stack. You could also use this for Gale Force, which isn't too bad whatsoever. Assuming they don't even have slang or competitive PRF, you could use someone like Ninja Shamir, for example, with Shuriken Cleaver, Gale Force, Flashing Blade, and Times Pulse. With Times Pulse, Gale Force will become a 4 cooldown special, and assuming that they make the speed check and there aren't any guard effects present, they'll be able to get Gale Force off on their second hit, and then they can be used for hit and run strategies. I like the idea of giving them close call, so in case they miss the kill, they can still reduce the amount of damage taken, and because it pushes themselves back 1 space after combat, they can actually move back a total of 3 spaces, in which point you can actually just reposition them out, and they'll be good to go. And then of course, one of the popular merge projects, Young Innis, is a perfect fit for Times Pulse because they have an anti-damage reduction weapon with built-in slang. So, Times Pulse is definitely one of his best skills that you can give him. With Times Pulse in mind, they can have an instant special ready to go. You could give them anything that boosts their attack and speed, such as Blade Session, Ideal. You could give them Wind Sweep if you want, so they can prevent any sort of counterattacks from melee foes, or you could give them No Follow-Up so they can secure their own follow-up, which is also really nice. In my opinion, there's just a lot you can do with Times Pulse, so if you are going to kill him off for any of the skills he has, I would recommend using it for that. Of course, if you still want to use him for Duel Infantry 4, then that shouldn't stop you. There are plenty of good candidates for that skill in mind if you really do want to use it. So for example, I have 3 units on the screen that I believe are probably some of the best users of Duel Infantry 4. You got Soth, you got Jump, and you got Legal. Soth is one of the most offensive daggers that we have in the game in the demote pool, which is really nice. Heshcats can provide an Omni buff and Omni debuff to him and his allies, and in whatever foes that he goes up against, and has built-in Pulse Smoke, meaning that it can help with survivability in a lot of aspects. With Duel Infantry 4 in mind, he can bolster his bulk quite a bit, which isn't too bad whatsoever. So if you are looking for a really nice dagger to use in Arena, Soth is not a bad option, and I know a lot of people built him up, so for all the Soth fans out there, go at it. You also have Junk, who is a really solid Deadeye user. He has Slaying with attack speed 10, a guaranteed follow-up, and Desperation all built into his weapon. And because of his infantry status, he can run speed defense tempo, and he doesn't have to worry about getting Deadeye triggers off whatsoever, as long as he can double. So for arena purposes, he can actually hit quite hard. You will have to watch out for skills that disable his guaranteed follow-up attack because it isn't full no follow-up. So units such as Hardy Fighter Brave Hector or Ascended Dune can shut him off, which can be a problem. But for the most part, as long as he can double, he should be able to get Deadeye off with no problem whatsoever. And then you have Legault, who recently got his refund. And honestly, he does do well in Arena because a lot of the units you will be facing in Arena modes do run rallies. And because Legault does punish units that have visible buffs, his damage output will be really significant in comparison to maybe Soth or Jump. And he has built-in damage reduction, which is really nice for his survivability. But he does have to watch out for taking multiple hits, or even one singular hit, because 30% isn't exactly the highest, especially with his overall bulk. But if you do consider merging him up and making a plus 10, flowers, yada, it really shouldn't be too bad. Honestly, these 3 are probably some of the best users of Duel Infantry 4, at least in the budget pool. There are plenty of others in the 5-star pool, but considering this Yuri is free to play, I would imagine most people are going to be using him on more available, easily mergeable units, which is why I picked these 3. And beyond that, there's not really much else. If you want to keep Yuri for general use, he actually can be built with relatively cheap skills in mind, but if you don't like him, again, you can kill him off for Times Pulse and you can do an assortment of things with him. But I want to know what you're going to use him for. I'm honestly curious. I already made mine a manual, so in case I need Times Pulse for something, then I have it. But are you going to keep him? Are you going to use him for Aether Raids? Are you going to use him for Summoner Duels? What are you going to use him for? Let me know down below. And until next time, thanks for watching.